This is the TD Experience Podcast Network. And yes, just like the intro said, it is no longer the TD Experience NFL Podcast. It is now officially the Hotline Blitz. You're listening to the first issue of the Hotline Blitz as my co-host Cliff Kidwell up in Baltimore, Maryland is dancing right now. And I am your host, TD himself, Trey Downey, as always. Like I said, it's still the same show, different name, different style. Last week we were on a bye week. A lot has changed since then. The Baltimore Ravens lost more games. I am now officially an employee of 620 WDAE in Tampa here, the premier radio station. Ronda Rousey is no longer the UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion. So a lot of things happen when we take a week off. But just like in the NFL, everybody has some injuries, need to heal up a little bit. Last week, I actually literally did throw out my back just bending over to pick something up, some sciatica attack on me, and I'm only 25 years old, so I don't know what that says about the future for my back. But I probably would have been on the side. I probably would have been listed as doubtful on the injury report last week anyways. Cliff, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. You mentioned the Ravens lost more games. Just want to let everybody know that the refs need to have their eyes checked. You saw it. I saw it. There was definitely a flag should have been thrown on the right tackle for the Jaguars. But however, the play wasn't caught, and we actually cost ourselves the game. The Ravens actually cost themselves the game by giving a face mask with 2-7. However, the Ravens are going for the first round draft pick. If you didn't know, Trey, we have the Ravens. Sorry, we as a city, it's just that we feel how bad it is right now. The Ravens actually have like 10 draft picks with the conspiration picks because we're so good at that. Ozzie News is going to work his magic, and then you'll see the Ravens back in the fight and actually going to win the Super Bowl. Sorry, I know I said Packers and Ravens was going to win it this season, was going to all the season. I meant to say that's for next year. Because as we can see, Trey, the Packers aren't doing too well either. So, I mean, they're 6-3.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, it's looking kind of fishy right now. But a lot has happened. Football has been great. The Rousey fight was just we could just put that, we could just, talk about this real quick. I mean, that kick in the face was just Holmes rung her bell. Like, seriously, I think has anybody talked to Rousey since? Is she still in the hospital?
She's not in the hospital. She just recently got back to the US, but she hasn't been doing any media, any stuff like that at all whatsoever.
You know what? I would love to say she's humble, but beginning that fight, Trey, when you don't in NFL, there's robberies. There's hate. The Ravens, Steelers, Bucks, and you guys don't really have a robbery. Anybody? The Saints, I guess. I don't know.
And Atlanta.
That division they don't really have competition. So who really knows who's a robbery? But anyway, NFL, there's strong rivalries. But like, if you talk to the players, with Ravens and Steelers, they hate each other, but they respect each other. Rousey showed no respect to Holmes. No respect. None. And Holmes is a boxer and outboxed her. And I love Floyd Mayweather's comments. It was subtle. He said, "Listen, Rousey, if you need any help, I feel for you. I understand. Keep your head up. But if you need some help with some boxing skills, let me know." Now, you can sit here and say it was a diss, but Rousey's not humble as we thought she was. She's not as humble as she thought she was. And she called her own fight. She called her own fight. She said she's not gonna let her kick me in the face. It's not gonna go that way. She got kicked in the face.
I'll tell you right now. You said Rousey is not as humble as we thought she was. Nobody ever thought she was humble. I'll tell you that for sure.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, nobody ever thought Rousey was humble. It's just a thing of she came into this fight. Nobody really thought Holm had a chance. I think Rousey didn't think Holm had a chance.
Okay.
She was a 12-1 underdog. It was just the perfect storm. Everything going on in Rousey's camp right now. Her head coach is getting, possibly investigated for tax evasion, possibly going to go to jail. Her mom and her coach are feuding. Just crazy things. This fight got moved up 2 months quicker than it was supposed to be. It was originally supposed to be on New Year's weekend. Holm just fought the absolute perfect fight. It's by far.
Yes.
Years ago, before Holm was in the UFC, a lot of people, including myself, looked at her and possibly pegged her as a person who could eventually beat Rousey in the future. The reason why she was such a big underdog in this fight is because, yes, she won her first 2 fights in the UFC, but she did not look that great, and she had no killer instinct whatsoever in those first couple of UFC fights. A lot of people diss this fight, saying that Holm didn't even deserve the fight, and that this fight was originally supposed to go to Miesha Tate, the third fight between Tate and Rousey. But we saw that it was the right fight. It's going to be interesting to see where the UFC goes from here, because Rousey, by far the most popular star in the UFC. You can't
right now, yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see if, all of those people, there are a ton of people out there who literally only watch a UFC fight if Ronda Rousey is fighting. It's going to be interesting to see if that transfers a little bit over to Holly Holm. She does not have the same personality. She's not the same media darling like how Ronda Rousey is. She's not a movie star like how Ronda Rousey is. The rematch is going to be huge, but if Holm destroys Rousey again, I don't know what's going to happen with the future of the UFC. But that's a different discussion for a different podcast. We're going to get into some football. It's been way too long since you and I have talked football. Last week we didn't have a show, but we still, in our minds, we're still thinking the most intriguing game every week. Even though we're on our bye week, our mind is still in this podcast. And 2 games that were very intriguing going into last week and ended up panning out that way. New England and the Giants, and Arizona and Seattle. 2 huge games.
Huge games.
Cliff, I'll admit, going into last week, if we would have done this podcast last week, I would have picked the Giants to beat New England as their first loss of the season. Just Eli has Tom Brady's number, point blank, period. That didn't end up happening. What were your thoughts on what happened in that game and the crazy finish?
You know what, Trey? And this is not a diss to you at all. But after seeing the stellar performance they did against the Bucks the week before, I would have picked them too. It just seemed that they just have everything intact. Like, Odell Beckham is getting open. He's catching balls. I swear, like, Trey, that's their only weapon, it seems like. But it's not really. I mean, we can sit here and talk about Eli Manning, the Randalls, that's all I know. But, like, they put up points. They score. Giants, win or lose, they score. So I watched the game a little bit. NFL Sunday Ticket. Ladies and gentlemen, DirecTV is the bomb. Go get yourself, get you some. It's provided by AT&T, my employer. It's the best out there. Anyway, I actually watched the Giants and Bucks game. And Trey, they kind of destroyed you guys in that game. Like you're shaking your head.
I fully disagree with that. That was a one possession game the entire game. The only reason they won by 2 touchdowns is because of a fluky play on the last play of the game. So I mean, they didn't destroy us. That was a close game. That was a completely close game throughout.
How was 32-18 a close game, Trey?
It was 26-18 to the last play of the game, where they returned a fumble on a crazy lateral play, and it was a 1-score game the whole game. So that's just padding on points. That's one of the literal stories of the score does not tell the story of the game. And that's not just me being a Bucks defender, because if you want to talk, I can talk about how the Bucks got the luckiest win, one of the luckiest wins in the history of the NFL this past weekend. But let's just talk. We can just talk about the Giants and the Patriots for now.
Well, we will just talk about the Giants now. I will say the Cowboys are not that good, so relax yourself just a little teeny bit.
I was saying it was lucky.
Okay. Respect. But I digress. We digress. New York had that game. Trey, do you agree? New York should have won that game.
Yes,
New York should have won. And honestly, we would have agreed on the same thing. I would have picked Giants because I don't really like New England, but the fact that it was in New York, that's why I would have picked the Giants, to be honest with you. They had it. They did everything right. However, this shows you that the New England Patriots are just that good on all three fronts: offense, defense, and special teams. They paid that kicker this year, made him the highest paid kicker in NFL history. And he showed he can make why he's the number one. He hasn't missed a kick in 20, well, I believe it was 27 consecutive kicks. He's the clutch kicker that they had, and what's his name? Trey, help me out here.
Adam Vinatieri.
Yeah, Adam Vinatieri. Thank you. He's a clutch kicker as well as good as Adam Vinatieri, with a better kick, with a stronger leg, and he's 26 years old, Trey. So I mean, hey, Patriots are who we thought we were. It's something about the Giants that always has Tom Brady rattled. Tom Brady didn't look that good. Tom Brady did an okay game, but it wasn't like the stellar Tom Brady we were. I mean, 334 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, that's a. But we're used to seeing Tom Brady excel, just going crazy. Now we do realize that Julius Edelman was hurt. However, it was just one of those games. However, other game I want to talk about is something I've been preaching all season. Now, Trey, I know that the world saw crazy when I said the Seahawks weren't going to make the playoffs. But are we on my side now, ladies and gentlemen? Are we seeing what I saw? Are we seeing the Russell Wilson who's not really going into his practices all head focused because he has the outside media hitting him with attention? Are we not seeing Pete Carroll, who I adore Pete Carroll? He's a good coach at USC. He's a good coach. Are we not seeing Pete Carroll having little disputes with his players and how to control them? Now, Pete Carroll is a player's coach. Players want to play for Pete Carroll, but does he really have the coaching mentality to coach his team? Trey, this game was a hard fought game all the way through. It was one of those great games that I enjoy watching. I know you enjoy watching, but your fabulous Arizona Cardinals came out with a win and looked impressive throughout. Close game, as you said, the scores don't tell the tale. What do you think about the game?
Well, I mean, Seattle made a furious comeback in the second half of the game.
Yeah,
22-7. Arizona had the lead at halftime, scoring 22 points in the second quarter. Carson Palmer, you've got to put him up there with the Tom Brady's, with the Cam Newtons as an MVP candidate.
Welcome back
this season. Exactly. Carson Palmer looking phenomenal. I mean, you have 2 candidates for comeback player of the year on that team in Carson Palmer and Chris Johnson. You could even throw Larry Fitzgerald in that mix.
You really can.
That entire team is just a resurgence. Seattle made a furious comeback. That defense forcing 2 Carson Palmer fumbles that ended up turning into touchdowns there in the second half. Palmer looked great, but those fumbles also almost cost them the game as well. So they've got to clean that up a little bit. Seattle had the lead. Arizona came back, and Arizona, they didn't flinch, and they won in Seattle, which is one of the hardest places to play. Now, you're still on this whole Seattle is going to miss the playoffs. There's a lot of football left to play, and you've got right now. Our next segment, actually, we're going to tell you which teams are going to make the playoffs. And right now in the NFC, the 2 teams that hold the wild card spots are Atlanta and Green Bay, and both of them have not looked good as of late. And then right after them, both at 6-3, you've got something like 6 teams at 4-5, and Seattle is one of those teams. I'm not going to say I'll save it for when we get into our playoff predictions here in a little bit on whether I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're still alive, but I think they have some work to do. Their season is not over, but it's going to be tough from this point forward to make the playoffs, and they're going to have to play like they played in the second half of that game going forward. They do play San Francisco this weekend, which is, I mean, we saw what happened on Thursday night a couple weeks ago when Seattle went to San Francisco, and San Francisco just looked absolutely atrocious. They're going to have to be playing the amazing Blaine Gabbert this week instead of Colin Kaepernick. But I
will say about this, and I'm going to cut you off, Trey. I will say about this, the San Francisco 49ers are a trap game. It's one of those games where you can't really relax. It's a trap game.
I mean, coming off of a loss, still being at home in Seattle. I think Seattle knows at this point of the season, when you're 4-5, 2 games back of getting in the playoffs at this point, their hopes of winning the division are over. If they wanted to win the division, they needed this win over Arizona. They're not going to win the division anymore. They still have hopes for a wild card, and that's going to be tough for a team like this who really thrives at home. And now, no matter what happens, they're going to have to go on the road in the playoffs. But, I mean, I think that this game, they're going to be fired up. They know that they pretty much not necessarily have to win out, but they're going to have to win 5 of 7 or 6 of 7 to get into the playoffs, which I possibly think that 9 and 7 could sneak into that last wild card spot in the NFC. We'll see what happens with Green Bay's fall as well, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But now we're going to get into really quickly, we're going to talk about our most impressive and least impressive thing that we saw last week, and I'll get into it really quickly. And my most impressive is the Chicago Bears. One time this season, I had Jay Cutler as my most impressive player. And this is mostly – I diss the Chicago Bears as being, the worst team in the league going into the beginning of the season. Yes, I thought going into this season and even throughout the first 3 or so weeks of the season, I legitimately thought that Chicago was going to have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft next season. That is not the case. They're one of those teams right there with Philly, with Seattle, with St. Louis, with the Bucks, with the Redskins, all there at 4-5, still competing. And last week, it wasn't one of those close games. This was the most complete performance that Chicago had put on this whole season, and it was against a tough team in Seattle. Both of us, whom we picked St. Louis, we both picked St. Louis to be a very improved team this season. I picked them to make the playoffs. So, and this is a huge game when you look at the beginning of the season. If St. Louis can turn things around, if Chicago can keep going like this, is this going to be a game that we look back at and say Chicago vaulted themselves into the playoff picture with this win? They looked phenomenal. Jay Cutler and Jeremy Langford, just not a household name. 20 carries, 73 yards and a touchdown, and over 100 yards receiving as well and a touchdown. Cutler, 19 of 24, 258 yards, 3 touchdowns, just ridiculous. Langford, joining the ranks of Walter Payton, and with a performance like this as a Chicago running back, just, phenomenal for Langford and the Bears, and holding the Rams to 13 points. Now at this point, Nick Foles is going to be benched now because of his performance against the Bears. Chicago with a huge win. John Fox is really getting these guys to believe in his system, and they've reached into the top 10 in total defense in the NFL. Chicago is, moving forward. They're going to have to be a team that you're going to have to, look out for. That against Chicago now, that is a trap game. Again, no matter who's playing them, because earlier in this season, you could look down the schedule and you would look at the Chicago Bears, and any fan of an opposing team that was playing the Bears would circle that as a victory. You can't do that anymore. Chicago's on the rise, and they really impressed me this past week.
You know what, Trey? I'm going to tell you my most impressive, but I would like to touch what you said about Langford. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, a video game cannot tell who's going to be there, but I play with the Bears in my franchise league, and I've utilized how good Langford is. Trey, we forgetting that Langford is a Michigan State running back. Trey, in your mind, if you can think about it, who's a great Michigan State running back right now in the league that's killing? He was the number 1 fantasy pick, if you can know.
Le'Veon Bell.
Exactly. So they just produce running backs, and I believe they had a running back before who didn't sell out as well, but he was great in college. Like, Langford was really good, and actually projected in draft, we had the Todd Gurleys, we had the Gordons of the league that overshadowed him, but he was one of those players that we thought was like, well, if he got a good team, he was going to excel. He finally got utilized in this offense, which is an offense where they make the running back a priority. We know about the Matt Fortes. Matt Fortes is their whole offense. Matt Forte was hurt. They use a Curry, who was their number 4th pick beforehand, and they're using him and Langford together. keeping. I swear, I want to sit here on this podcast and really give John Fox his credit. He had a bad hand with the Broncos. Even though they went to the playoffs, he had a bad hand because John Elway didn't want John Fox there. John Fox is a great coach. He turns bad teams into good teams. And Trey, you said it. The Chicago Bears aren't an easy win anymore. Me and you both said they had their first round pick, I believe, didn't we? We said there was no way this team was going to be any good. Maybe John Fox can tap into that numbskull's head in Jay Cutler and actually win some games with this team. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Cutler's weak. He's soft. He's so good. You ever hear about we have one person, and I don't want to put any negative connotation, but me and Trey played with somebody that had the physical traits and was just so quick. He was light footed. He was so good, and he didn't pan out. He did not pan out. He was so good. He had that physical traits to be good. He knocked out a play on our practice. How good he was, but he didn't pan out because his physical traits didn't get it. So he could have been a star. Jay Cutler's that guy. He has a strong arm. He has the accuracy to be a good guy, but just something in his head that doesn't get it. And hopefully, Trey, I hope John Fox get into it. But I digress from that. My most impressive, ladies and gentlemen, I wish we're going to get a YouTube page. Hopefully, I wish you can see what I'm doing right now, but I'm doing the DAP. Cam Newton and the Panthers. We had a bye week, ladies and gentlemen. We had to take our break, but Cam Newton still performed. Cam Newton beat the undefeated, well, not undefeated, but beat the Panthers. I mean, sorry, beat the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau.
It was in Carolina.
Was it in Carolina?
It was in Carolina. Yep.
That's my dream. You see how much I'm favored to the Panthers.
You got to do something
My
when the Ravens are what they are this season.
my father's in the background screaming something. But anyway, Cam Newton is just looking stellar. He's having fun. And for all you fans or haters out there saying that the dance was too much against the Tennessee Titans, keep him out the end zone. Keep him out the end zone, Trey. And he won't do those dances. He gives the ball to a fan every single game. I don't understand it. How is a discount double check a thing and the dab that Cam Newton does when he scores is not? He flipped it in. Trey, we
You
were
can't
sitting and talking.
you can't compare those two things. The discount double check, that's a real quick thing. If you want to compare Cam Newton's if you want to compare Cam Newton's Superman celebration to the discount double
Okay.
check, that's okay. But that comparing that dance to the discount double check, that's two completely different things. You
No,
can't
Trey,
something that's going on for 30 seconds with something that takes half a second, two different things. Two
well,
different things. Sorry about that. But I've seen memes on Facebook, and that is completely bogus. They are two entirely different things. People claiming racism and all other kinds of things on that. That's ridiculous. There's a difference between a celebration that takes 1 second and one where you're dancing for 15 to 30 seconds. Two different things, and I'm gonna rant on that because that's ridiculous. I'm perfectly
well,
fine with Cam Newton's Superman celebration. I don't even have that much problem with the DAP celebration. I just don't like that people are comparing it to different things that it's not comparable to. That's
well,
ridiculous.
Trey, me and you both know the discount double check is the championship belt. That's
Yeah,
all he's doing. He's showing the WCW, or well, I'm sorry, I'm a WCW fan. Now it's a WWE championship, but he's showing the WCW championship belt, and he's worn it, and he's shown that, and we know how it is. The Trey, I get what you're saying, and everybody's and all this one, but let's look at the two now. Some 9-year-old's mother wrote a comment, and we're not going to stay too long on the subject, but let's just, since we touched on it, comment on how it was so disrespectful. Trey, I don't see, and they said I'm doing it, just picture me doing it that. I don't see how that, and then doing this, and then doing it again is a problem. Now, are we going to blame the Titans player for getting in his face because being mad because they're not a good team? No, we're not talking about that. Yes, he aggravated. He should have got a taunting call because was taunting. He was taunting the player, which the referees didn't even call because they don't have eyesight this year. Anyway, we can't sit here and say that Cam Newton is not who we thought he was, and we can't say, oh, that's different from him. We're not used to saying that. Yeah, Superman thing was his thing, but since college, Trey, since he got kicked out of Florida for stealing laptops, quote unquote stealing laptops, we don't know what happened there. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But at Auburn, he's always been a look at me player. Look at me play. He's always been watch me player. And Trey, in the community I live in, the DAP is a thing. Everybody does the DAP. Like it's just one quick motion. Bow. You know, you switch your head to your armpit, like you're smelling your armpit, ladies and gentlemen. But right, but watch me. That's all it is. So all he was saying was watch me. And I agree with his comment, Trey. Keep my end zone, and won't be no problems. Panthers are my best impressive team right now.
The Panthers are a good football team. I'll give you that. I just like I said, I don't really have that much of a problem with the dance. I just have a problem with people's comparison of it to something else because it's two different things. And I can understand why people get a little bit upset about this. I'm not upset about it myself. Like you said, keep him out of the end zone, but it's going to get to a point where Cam Newton gets to a Ronda Rousey level and he plays a really good team, gets hit in the mouth, and then we're going to see how much dapping that he's doing when he plays.
He did a flip in the end zone, Trey.
When he plays, we're going to see. Let's just see when he plays Minnesota or the fabulous Arizona Cardinals in the playoffs. We'll see what happens there. My least impressive team of the week is the Cincinnati Bengals. Losing on Monday night. A lot of people want to make a big deal about the comments J.J. Watt said about Andy Dalton turning the red rifle into the Red Ryder BB gun. And you know what? They did. We've talked about it. We've talked about it multiple times how Cincinnati has some of the best weapons on offense, better than any team in the league almost, with the emergence of Tyler Eifert, with A.J. Green, with Sanu. A.J. Green, that last drive of the game, just got the ball straight punched out. Fourth down that was crazy. Had the ball. You know, when you're a big-time receiver, you got to – he caught it, which a lot of receivers aren't doing this week. Last week, everybody missed my huge rant that would have went on about Mike Evans. He redeemed himself a little bit this week. But I'll tell you what, the Houston – they're alive for a playoff spot. They're tied right now with Indianapolis for the division lead. A lot of things going crazy there. You know, they signed Brandon Weeden, bringing him in there now to back up Brian Hoyer. But TJ Yates went in relief of Brian Hoyer. So who's going to start this weekend? We don't know. There are rumors of Bill O'Brien possibly going back to college and taking the University of Maryland head coaching position. So a lot of turmoil there, but that team is still winning. They beat an undefeated team on the road, coming back this week home, play the Jets. But Cincinnati, that is not a game that you can lose if you're going to compete.
Absolutely.
If you're going to compete, I'll give them this. They've got the division pretty much wrapped up. I will say that about Cincinnati. But if you're going to compete with New England for home field advantage, we saw what New England did. We've seen what New England has done when they play bad teams. And we saw what they did playing a team like the Giants. They pull out a win late. Cincinnati didn't do that this week. Cincinnati's proved us wrong and multiple times this season. But this game is going to have to be the exception to the rule. They're going to have to play like they did the first 8 weeks of the season, and they're not going to. They can't let this get in their head and let it continue the rest of the season. I honestly think this week going to Arizona, big Sunday night primetime game. Yes, they were on Monday night last week, but I think that they looked past Houston a little bit. Houston, a team, yes, going into the game at 3-5, but like I said, they're now tied with Indy for the division lead. They're right there competing for the division, and they look past that a little bit, and you can't do that in the NFL or you're going to end up losing, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, you know what, Trey? I've called – ladies and gentlemen, we actually – me and Trey talked about this before the show. We always have a meeting, and we actually both agreed that the Bengals were our least impressive. I have another team that I will talk about here in a minute. I will say this, Trey. They're not the J.J. Watts anymore. If you guys love football as much as I love football, you're going to watch a game that's available to you. No matter if your team's winning or losing, you're gonna still gonna watch tune in other games. Trey, I watched this game, and did you see the one-handed catch by Hopkins? It was stellar. He had Adam Pac-Man Jones, who has revitalized his whole career, and actually made himself a good cornerback and maybe the number one quarterback for the Bengals is great. And he was sticking Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins catches a one-handed catch on the end
Bernard
zone.
Hopkins, the boxer, DeAndre Hopkins, the receiver for the Texans.
Oh my God, I said Bernard Hopkins. Sorry. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I actually wanted him as a wide receiver from Clemson, but they have that Hopkins name. Sorry, I get into it. Thank you, Trey, for the fix up there. But maybe, hey, we can call him Bernard because he knocked him out. Anyway.
There you go, see?
DeAndre Hopkins catches the ball one-handed and literally catches the ball, gets one foot in, gets his second foot, touches the other foot, and he's out. But he actually twists his leg off and catches the ball. He actually talked about the play. He asked him, "How did you get 2 feet in?" He said, "Well, I thought I got 2 feet in when I first caught the ball, but then I realized that I touched my foot, so I had to make the extra effort. I'm actually reading the quote. I made extra effort to get my other foot in." Like, and you talk about something about Hoyer. Hoyer has made this team good. Like, Hoyer controls the ball. He's better than Mallet ever was. It's time. Actually, Trey, is it time to actually say that we're off the Ryan Mallet thing? Like, yeah, he did good in preseason with the Patriots, but Ryan Mallett is not a good quarterback. He wasn't a good quarterback at Arkansas. So are we time to say that he's like not a good quarterback? I think we are.
He's not
However,
in the NFL right now, yeah, so we're ready to say that.
yeah. So anyway, I digress. My least impressive team is the Denver Broncos at 7-2, but they should be 8-1. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when you're down the whole time at home against not a winning team. The trade says something about teams being 4-5. This is the AFC, different kind of division. And not my favorite team to the division, but it seems like the NFC is always neck and neck. Where the AFC is, we always have teams that just win and win and win. Broncos are the team that just win, win, and win. They played the Kansas City Chiefs at home, um, and they lost. And Trey, this I loved the quote you said. I repeat it one more time. The score does not tell the game. Trey, they were down 22-0 in the fourth quarter. You might see 29. You might say 29-13. Yeah, you said, "Oh wow, they fought out." No, no. Broncos got outplayed and beat. They got beat so bad, Trey, that they had to set Peyton Manning. And then they said, and I'm doing the quotation fingers, and they said that Peyton Manning was hurt. Me and you both know, Trey, that we've watched football hand out throughout the season, bye week or not. And Peyton Manning has not looked Peyton Manning-ist at all, has he?
I mean, through a couple games, he looked great again. He looked great against Green Bay a couple weeks ago. I believe that he's hurt, and that plantar fascia, that's nothing to mess around with. And he has a bunch of injuries. They probably should have sat him this week, as Kubiak said after the game. I'll talk more about Kansas City a little bit later about how I think they're on the rise. Kansas City's a team, they should have beaten Denver when they played, and week 2 when the crazy Jamal Charles fumble at the end of the game. So this is a team that really has Denver's number. Yes, Denver, not impressive at all. A division game where you're down 22-0 in the fourth quarter. Osweiler coming in. We're going to see how he performs this week as they go to play a very hot team in the Chicago Bears. Because of their hot start, they're still in a good position as far as, playoff position goes. They have a 3-game lead over Kansas City and Oakland right now in the division. So I think that they've got the division wrapped up, because I don't see them not being able to eke out 2 or 3 more wins the rest of the season. But they're not going to be competing with Cincinnati and New England as far as home field advantage goes anymore. And that's a big deal for Denver as well.
It really is. And I hope that their quarterback situation pans out for them, because we both know that defense is just absolutely stellar. However, Chiefs are a tough team. I will give you that.
But now we've been talking about teams and whether they're going to be making the playoffs and stuff like that all show long. But now we're going to really get into it, and we did it at the beginning of the season in the season preview podcast. We told you which teams are going to make the playoffs. It's time to reevaluate, reassess, and look at the playoff picture right now and tell you who's going to win the divisions and who is going to win the wild cards. And we're going to start with the top. We're going to start with the AFC East, and that's easily the easiest division to predict right now. And it is the team that I'm predicting that is going to have home field advantage in the playoffs, and that is the New England Patriots. Even losing Dion Lewis and Julian Edelman, very tough losses. But Blunt's going to get more carries. Brandon LaFell and Danny Amendola are going to get more catches. I think New England still ends up getting home field advantage and wins the AFC East. I didn't pick them to do that at the beginning of the season. I picked Buffalo to win the division. They're too far back now, Buffalo, even though they're getting on a little bit of a hot streak. But New England is going to win the division and have home field advantage in the AFC. Cliff, I'm sure you agree with me.
100%. I believe I really wasn't too keen on the Patriots winning this division. I thought that the flag gate was going to derail them and making them the number one team. Tom Brady has shown that, hey, no matter if my balls are flat or my balls are solid, I'm still going to throw touchdowns. Easily, hands down, Patriots win that division with ease.
So now we're going to go over to the NFC and look at the NFC East, which is really probably, when you look at the divisions, the NFC East and the AFC South are probably the two hardest divisions to pick a winner in. They're all the Giants at 5-5, 4-5 for both Philadelphia and Washington. And then you've got the Cowboys, who some people, even though they're 2-7, they're getting Romo back this week. Some people think they can go on some kind of run and make the playoffs. But even though they lost this week in a tough game against New England, I think the Giants still find a way to get to 9-7, win the division, and end up with the 4 seed in the NFC. I just think from top to bottom that the Giants are the best team in that division, and they can pull out some of these division games late. And, I mean, the biggest competition might be Philly, but they're going to Mark Sanchez, and you're not going to win a division with Mark Sanchez.
You know what, Trey? The NFC East is one of those divisions that you just don't know. I swear, Dallas Cowboys have lost 7 games straight without Tony Romo. So we can't sit there and say that, oh, they just horrible. They don't have Tony Romo, and then they happen to get in and have Dez Bryant. Trey, I'd sit there and told you at the beginning of the season that Philadelphia was going to win this division. And I told you Washington Redskins going to finish last.
Oh, don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm going to recant that statement. I don't know what it is about the Washington Redskins. They beat teams like Falcons, and they lose to teams that you're like, why would you lose to that team?
They lost to Falcons in overtime.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know what the score was to Falcons, but they beat the Falcons. If we're talking about a missed interception play, yeah, but they actually beat the Falcons.
I mean, they got the payback when they beat the Bucks.
Right. Well, they did beat the Bucks, though, Trey. This division is one of the hardest divisions to call. We got a 5-5 Giants, we got a 4-5 Redskins, we got a 4-5 Eagles, and then we got 2-7 Dallas, who, like you said, they get Tony Romo back this week, is a chance to win. I am going to pick, and ladies and gentlemen, this is not a favoritism thing. This is actually hurting me as well as you may hurt your ears. The Redskins looking strong, Trey. If they can find a balance, and understanding of how to run the ball, you have a great Matt Jones, you have a great Alfred Morris, you also have a quarterback who we thought that was out and actually performing. Now, they had no coaching whatsoever at all, but the Redskins are playing good. When they played against the Rams at the beginning of the season, we thought they had no chance to beat the Rams. They beat the Rams. We had no chance in them actually facing the Falcons, who actually lost. We never had no chance with them, and they kept with them. The Eagles would be my pick, Trey. They really would, but without a solid Mark Sanchez as the quarterback, I really can't say that. But the Redskins have performed as they run the ball and they use that Matt Jones's. They shout out Florida. There you go, Gators. There's your guy. Like, he has performed That team is really ready to play. And the Stellar Legion, I wish we had YouTube going on. My father's going crazy right now. They're showing Redskins gear. They're still 4-5. There's a lot of time left to be played, but Redskins might win this division, Trey.
Uh, I don't know what to say. We're gonna move on to the AFC North, another
AFC
division
North.
that I think is pretty easy to predict. Usually at this point of the season, it is not. But I'm going to go with Cincinnati, even losing this game. They already got the big win over Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger, great performance coming off the bench, injured. But can Ben Roethlisberger stay healthy? Is Le'Veon Bell is injured, but can D'Angelo Williams keep this going? Cincinnati wins that division and gets a first-round bye, the 2 seed in the AFC, Cincinnati.
Yeah, usually this division is kind of tough to tell, but like Trey said, Cincinnati's already got the win. The Browns and Ravens are not looking good this year. Cincinnati wins this division easily.
Now we're going to move over to the NFC North, which is a tough division to predict right now because 2 teams looking very good. 7-2 Minnesota, 6-3 Green Bay. Big game coming up this weekend. And Green Bay has not looked good in the past couple of weeks. The Jordy Nelson injury is really catching up to them. Minnesota with Mike Zimmer, who is a very good coach, with the emergence of Stephon Diggs as a very good speedy receiver, and Adrian Peterson, and what that front four is able to do on defense. I think Minnesota wins that division. They get the 3 seed in the NFC.
This is a troubling thing for me because I picked the Packers to win it. Trey, I'm not going to take too long on this. Vikings are going to win 10 games this year. I've automatically picked them to win 10 games. However, I don't think they win the division. I'm going to give it to the Green Bay Packers. Yes, we can talk about the 3-game losing streak Green Bay Packers has had. And ladies and gentlemen, this is really hard because I am really a Vikings fan. I want them to do good. I want Adrian Peterson to come back and do good, win comeback player of the year again. So it's really hard to say, but Vikings are really good. But Green Bay Packers will have their number and will end up winning more games because I cannot sit here and say that the Vikings are better than the Green Bay Packers. Something about me that just can't fix that. Now I hope Vikings win it all. I wish they do. I hope they beat Green Bay in a mind sense. But Green Bay is just a better team in all 4 fronts. Defense, defensive line, and offense. So we'll see how this goes. I will say that I have mixed feelings, but I'm going to give it to the Packers to win the division.
Yeah, that one might be right there with the NFC East as the toughest to predict. Now we're going to go to the AFC West, team that was your least impressive this week. I still think they're going to win the division just because of the lead that they had, even with Kansas City emerging, even without Jamal Charles. I'm going to go with Denver. They get the 3 seed in the AFC. They win the division. It will be interesting to see if Peyton comes back and how Brock Osweiler performs. But I think Denver, because of their defense, still wins the AFC West.
Yeah, Denver hands down. Oakland Raiders has a horrible defense but a great offense. Kansas City is one of those teams that you don't know who they are. And we said it as the Redskins at the beginning of the season. They don't know who they are. And San Diego Chargers, Trey, number one passing offense, but 2-7. So I don't know what's going on with that situation, but Denver does win this division hands down.
Now we're going to go to the NFC West, and a team. Yes, there is a team that's on top of the entire NFC right now. A lot of people think they're going to have home field advantage, but I think when it's all said and done, the road to the Super Bowl will roll through Arizona as the fabulous Arizona Cardinals win the division, and they get home field advantage in the NFC as the number 1 seed.
Relax yourself, Trey. The Panthers can lose a game and still be ahead. Can actually lose 2 games and possibly still be ahead. So
I'm not worried about that. I'll tell you that.
I'll say this. Arizona wins this division, and I had no idea. I had San Francisco winning this division, so that's saying a lot about my picks. But yes, Arizona, after doing that great performance against Seahawks, win this division with ease. And actually, Trey, I got them going 13-3.
So now we're gonna look at the South divisions. We'll start with the NFC South because it's very easy to predict. I'm going to pick I'm picking the Panthers. It pains me to do so, but they already have 9 wins and probably second place. Well, Atlanta's still good, but Atlanta's fallen off. If you asked me this a couple weeks ago, I'd still pick Atlanta to overtake Carolina. They still play 2 games against each other, so who knows what's going to happen. But I think Carolina still somehow, some way, because of this start, ends up winning the division. They get a first-round bye. They get the 2 seed, but Arizona ends up finishing 1 game better than them in the standings.
Shame on the NFL for having the Carolina Panthers play Atlanta one week, then they play somebody else, and they play another week. I don't know how that worked out, but I did pick Atlanta to win this division, and I was absolutely wrong. Panthers go 15-1. I'm gonna pick. I got them. I got them tied to win with Atlanta Falcons for some reason because I did pick them to win. They go 15-1, and they show. They get home for the advantage, Trey. Panthers win this division easily.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But now we're going to look at the AFC South, and right now you've got Indy and Houston both at 4-5, and then a team who tonight could improve to 4-6.
You're right.
And then Indy play at the end of this week. Indy playing Atlanta could go to 4-6. Houston playing the Jets could go to 4-6. Jacksonville playing Tennessee could move to 4-6 tonight. And after this week, we would have a 3-way tie at 4-6 in this division.
Right.
So I'll tell you right now, even with the injury to Andrew Luck, at the beginning of this season, I picked the Indianapolis Colts to win the Super Bowl. Last week, if we would have had a most impressive, it would have been the Colts' performance against the Denver Broncos, their most complete game all season. Indy still wins that division. In all honesty, I'm more worried about Jacksonville than I am Houston, because I think Jacksonville's a young team that could really get hot if they get some confidence. But I'm beating Baltimore last week. They're going to get their second straight win tonight. And when a young team like that, we saw it back in 2010 with the Bucs when they went 10-6 with a team with not a lot of talent. They missed the playoffs just on a tiebreaker, but they got a lot of wins at the end of games and gained some confidence and won games that they shouldn't. And I think that could happen with Jacksonville. But I think at the end of the day, Indy is still the better team, and Indy wins the division.
This is a tough one because I thought the Colts were going to be such a good team, Trey. Let's put this out there for the UCF fans out there that's want to listen. Blake Bortles is 1 interception away from being a backup. I swear to you, I've watched his game, and I actually got to watch evaluate his game against the Ravens. He's not a good quarterback, Trey. However, you know who I'm going to pick to win this division?
The J.J. Watts?
The J.J. Watts. I don't know what it is about the Texans. They just surprised me as Hoyer as the quarterback. Now, I will say, if Hoyer's their quarterback, then, this team is going to win this division. Like Trey said at the beginning of the podcast, we don't know who's going to be their quarterback. So, J.J. Watts, Hoyer involved, Texas win this division.
Now we're going to get into definitely the hardest things to pick, and that's the wild card. The wild card situation is just crazy in both conferences. Right now in the AFC, the Pittsburgh Steelers at 6-4 and the Buffalo Bills at 5-4 hold the wild cards. A whole bunch of teams right behind them. In the NFC, the Packers and the Falcons both at 6-3 hold the wild card positions, and then you've got friggin' everybody standing there at 4-5 competing for a wild card spot. I'll go with the AFC first, and I'll tell you right now that for one of the divisions or for one of the wild card spots, I'm gonna pick the Buffalo Bills. I think they get to 10 or even possibly 11 wins, 5-4 right now. I think they get that first wild card and end up playing Indy in the first round as in an interesting matchup from early in the season. Buffalo, Tyrod Taylor, Sammy Watkins coming back from injury. Buffalo beating the Jets on Thursday night last week. A very big win for the playoff picture. Buffalo gets that first spot. And the other spot in the AFC, this is going to be surprising to you. Right now, like I said, Pittsburgh at 6-4, and then the Jets at 5-4, Kansas City at 4-5, Oakland at 4-5, Miami at 4-5, and Houston at 4-5. I'm going to tell you right now, the team that is going to sneak in, just barely pass. They're going to tie Pittsburgh with a 9-7 record, but because of a win that they got over Pittsburgh earlier this season, they get into the playoffs, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. At the beginning of the season, I thought they would compete for a playoff spot. I believe I picked them as a wild card. Kansas City has really impressed me the past couple weeks. Shandark West, Jeremy Maclin getting the ball from Alex Smith, that defense performing very well. Kansas City, one of the hottest teams in the league. Losing Jamal Charles was a tough thing. But after that absolute shellacking of Detroit and London, this team has gotten some confidence, and they are going to get into the playoffs at 9-7. The last wild card goes to Kansas City in the AFC.
I won't be long breath with this because I just feel like I know the AFC. The number fifth slot in the AFC will be the Pittsburgh Steelers. They get Ben Roethlisberger back. They got Ben Roethlisberger back, and he was actually hurt playing this game. They have no quarterbacks right now. The Steelers top the fifth pick. Now, as the number 6 spot, Trey, I was with you with the Bills. I was 100% with you. I even preached the Bills winning this division, actually. So this is tough for me. The Jets will have the number 6 spot with Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's just they're good. That defense and that offense is good once they play under Rex Ryan. They get it together. I feel like they get the edge over the Bills when they play again. And the Jets get the 6th seed and sneak into the playoffs, Trey. I don't know what you're thinking. I have no idea how you would think that team would sneak into the playoffs. But you know, it's football. It's every given Sunday in this league, so I love this sport. But Jets get into the playoffs.
Now to the NFC, 2 teams right now that everybody thought possibly could be an NFC championship earlier this season. Atlanta and Green Bay hold the wild card spots. I'm going to tell you right now, I only think that one of those teams makes the playoffs. I don't think they both hold on. And the 5th seed in the NFC is the Atlanta Falcons. I think they get to 11-5. They turn things around. They make the playoffs. And finally, I think the Green Bay Packers over the rest of the season, they go 3-4, drop all the way down to 9-7, and miss the playoffs. And I'm still telling you right now, the team that gets the last wild card spot in the NFC, looking at the schedule, panning it out, they get to 10-6, the Seattle Seahawks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Seattle Seahawks will not make the playoffs. Trey doesn't see it right now, but I will say this one more time again. Like I said at the beginning of the season, they would not make the playoffs. My number 5th seed is a little tough.
I'm gonna tell you right now, though. Just really quick. This is not a homer pick. Just looking at the schedule and everything, if Atlanta and Green Bay keep falling down and the last wild card spot gets to around 9-7, watch out for the Bucs. I'm just telling you that gaining confidence with that young team. I'm just telling you. I think they finish 7-9. But if they can, these next 3 games are very important. At Philly, at Indy, and then home against Atlanta. Already beat Atlanta once this season. I'm just telling. Watch out. I don't think it's going to happen because I think Seattle and Atlanta get those spots. But I'm out. Those teams that are on the verge, the Bucs are going to be dangerous.
Okay. It's a good debate. I will say this though: number 5th seed, hands down, will be the Vikings. I think the Vikings will get the number 5th seed. They might be in the lead right now at 7-2, but I believe Packers will win this division. Like I said, the Vikings will number 5th seed. My number 6 seed is going to be the team you've been preaching all year, the Giants. I think Atlanta falls off and they lose their games. They do not get in the playoffs. I think Redskins will win a division and then play playoffs, and I believe that the Giants will have the 6th wildcard seed as they have when they won the Super Bowl year. Giants get in as a number 6 seed, Trey. I just feel like the Giants are a good team, like you said you are. They're leading the division right now. I think the Redskins overpower them. I think they lose the game in Washington this year. And then just we haven't watched the Redskins back in the playoffs. However, I think the Giants get in too at the number 6 seed. Number 5, Vikings. Number 6, Giants.
Interesting picks right there. And now we're going to get into some more picks. Fantasy pick, bet of the week. Cliff, you absolutely demolished me in fantasy last week. Tell me who I can get on my team to improve them for this playoff run.
Well, Trey, this guy is probably actually sitting in the bench right now. Probably not even starting for any team right now. You can probably pick him up. I know he's not really starting in our division and in our fantasy league. Vernon Davis is going to be a great tight end to pick up points. Let me tell you why. Peyton Manning's out this week. If you guys follow Osweiler in college, he throws to a lot of tight ends. Vernon Davis has already voiced how upset he is that he wasn't involved in the Broncos' loss this week. I think Vernon Davis is sitting there actually in your waiver wire to pick up. So, ladies and gentlemen, pick him up this week because I think he's going to put up at least 10 points. And for a tight end, that's a lot of points, Trey. A lot of points that makes a difference. Trey, just real quick, you want to tell them the score that I beat you by? Just give him a.
I think it was like, what was it, like 106 to 70, something?
Yes!
Something like that.
Exactly. So I know what I'm talking about. I'm sitting at 7-3 in our money league that we're in, Trey. However, I'm sitting at 7-3 and I'm winning. And when the leader's only 8-2 in our fantasy, I digress from that. Vernon Davis is a sneaker pick to pick up on your team. Trey, my pockets are empty. However, I'm going to win out. I win out my fantasy league, so I'll be a little full. But tell me how to win some money right now. Who am I going to pick as a team that's going to put some money in my pockets?
The Kansas City Chiefs. I think they're going to make the playoffs, and that run continues this week. They're only 3-point favorites at San Diego, who is a team in disarray. It's just, they haven't looked good right now. Phillip Rivers lighting up the world with passing stats. But, Kansas City, they're a hot team. They're only 3-point favorites at San Diego. Kansas City gets it done. That is my bet of the week. And now, before we get into game picks, most intriguing game of the week. I've been high on both of these teams all season long. Monday night, Cincinnati lost, yes, but this Sunday night, the NFL has flexed it. It was supposed to be a late afternoon game, but now it is a Sunday night primetime game. My most intriguing game of the week is Cincinnati at the fabulous Arizona Cardinals. Could possibly be a Super Bowl preview. I'm not necessarily going to pick that, but I think it's going to be a very, very good game on Sunday night.
My game of the week, Trey, is going to be one of those teams that we just don't know, like, who's going to win. It's going to be tough. It's the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau against the Vikings. At the Vikings home field. And it's one of those games that I just don't know who's going to win it because the Vikings are playing stellar. However, I think Packers are tired of this 3-game losing streak, and they actually beat the Vikings at their house. So I actually got Green Bay and Vikings as the game of the week, and Green Bay ends up winning.
Now let's get into the game picks. Let's get it right started. Thursday night game, these very intriguing color rush uniforms. Tennessee at Jacksonville. I'm going Jacksonville. I think they get their second straight win, improved to 4-6.
I got Jacksonville winning this one. Jacksonville beats Tennessee hands down.
Tampa Bay at Philly. Philly with Mark Sanchez. Tampa Bay trying to get their first winning streak. First time they haven't won consecutive games over Lovie Smith yet. I think Tampa Bay goes into Philly and picks up a victory. Philly, like I said, no Sam Bradford. Ryan Matthews as well as injured, so DeMarco Murray is handling the bulk of those carries right now. The Bucks get to 5-5, beat Philadelphia.
Not a brotherly love. You will not beat the Eagles. They might be one team that you don't know who they are. They really not. They don't play as good as they should be. Eagles wins this down with the Mark Sanchez. No more butt fumbles here. Eagles win.
Oakland at Detroit. Oakland, a team that has fallen off a little bit in the past couple weeks, especially that game against Pittsburgh. Going East Coast for an early game. Detroit getting a huge win over Green Bay last week. They're still one of the worst teams in the league. I think Oakland wins this game because they need it more.
I think Lions win this game, Trey. As picking up a win in Lambeau, they're a tough team. They've showed that. They're at home at Forest Field. Lions win this game against the Raiders, who has a struggling secondary.
Indy at Atlanta, very intriguing game. Andrew Luck is out, so Matt Hasselbeck steps in again. Atlanta, a team coming off of the bye. Before that, 2 straight losses. Indy really needs this one, but so does Atlanta at home in the Georgia Dome. No Andrew Luck for Indy. I got to go Atlanta.
I gotta go Atlanta too. Colts have been playing great. They really have with the win over Denver. However, Falcons are really hungry as well after getting a loss against the Bucks. The Falcons play in the Georgia Dome. They play well at the Georgia Dome. Falcons win.
The Jets at Houston in a sneaky, intriguing game there. The Jets trying
Yeah.
to get back on a roll, trying to get back into that playoff picture. Houston trying to win the division, tied for the division lead with Indy. They're at home, but I think the Jets pull out the win with their defense, basically because even though they have Ryan Fitzpatrick, they have the quarterback advantage over Houston because we don't know who's going to start. We don't know if it's going to be Hoyer, if it's going to be TJ Yates, or if it's even going to be Brandon Weeden. I'm going the Jets over Houston.
For the first time this season, it's going to be one of those. It's one of those picks that if someone starts, I got the Texans. If Hoyer starts, Texans win this game. However, if he doesn't, I will have Jets. I think Fitzpatrick plays strong. He can get the ball to Brandon Marshall. However, Hoyer does have that scrambling ability that the other quarterback doesn't have. I really think that Texas could win this, but I'm going to pick the Jets in this case because Fitzpatrick is actually the solid $5.
Denver at Chicago. Chicago, a very hot team. They had their best game of the season last week. Denver probably had their worst game of the season last week. Denver, 2 straight losses to Indy and to now last week to Kansas City. Tough game, West Coast team going east, but I think Denver's defense gets in Jay Cutler's head a little bit. Jay Cutler throws a couple of interceptions, and Denver beats Chicago.
Denver beats Chicago hands down. Denver's just a better defense. Chicago does not. This is the first team that actually showed they can actually perform. Even though Oswald's starting, I got Denver.
St. Louis at Baltimore. Todd Gurley gets back on the right track after a tough game against Chicago, runs over that Baltimore defense. St. Louis wins.
Todd Gurley does not run the ball over of the Baltimore Ravens defense. The Ravens have actually stopped any 100 rusher this season, so the Ravens will get this win at home. Just only reason why they get this win is at home, Trey, and the Rams have a backup quarterback starting. Ravens win this one.
Dallas at Miami, the return of Tony Romo. Miami got a big win last week over Philadelphia. Dallas is a better team on the road than at home. And I think that this narrative of Dallas, getting on a run will last for maybe a week. Dallas beats Miami with Romo on the road.
Dallas does not win. Tony Romo is back in his first game and actually struggling. Dolphins fans, I'm giving you the win at home against the Cowboys, who actually are favored to win with Tony Romo in. Dolphins win this game at home.
Washington at Carolina, a big game for the Panthers. It's a tough one to pick because I think that these teams are actually close talent wise, and it pains me to do it, but the Panthers win.
I'm going to let my father pick this pick for me, Trey. I just got to let him in as a guest appearance. Go ahead, Dad. Tell him who's going to win this game.
Trey, I love Cam Newton. That's my man. That's Superman. But the Redskins, he's going to turn them back to Clark Kent. Upset, Redskins win.
Oh,
Run game killer.
Hey, it's possible. It is very possible if Matt Jones gets going. Now we're going to get into Kansas City and San Diego. It was my bet of the week, so Kansas City easily wins this one in San Diego.
Like that Clark Kent reference, that's pretty sweet. I actually have the Chargers winning this game, Trey. They just play good at home. They just play really, really good at home. I actually got Chiefs actually losing another one and Chargers winning this game at home.
San Francisco at Seattle. There's no way that Blaine Gabbert goes into CenturyLink Field and wins. Seattle wins easy.
Seattle will actually get their win that they need. 49ers have been looking disappointed. Seahawks win.
Cincinnati at Arizona, my most intriguing game of the week.
Yeah.
It's in Arizona. The fabulous Arizona Cardinals get the W.
Whew, it's a tough one for me, Trey. Cardinals are looking stellar, and I just can't say the Bengals are as good because they do this good every time in the regular season. So, Trey, I'm going to flip a coin on this one. Heads it is, and I'm going to pick the Cardinals. The Cardinals win this game.
Monday night game. You know, you want to call Tampa Bay over Philly an upset. That could be my upset of the week. But this is where I'm really doing it. Tyrod Taylor goes into New England. New England loses their first game of the season. Buffalo Bills.
This is Trey, to me, this is Trey's first really upset win. And I am very happy that he picked it. However, even though I said Buffalo Bills can win the division, Patriots are just that good. They can when they can pretty much do offense, defense, and special teams. They might go undefeated again this year. So Patriots win.
We disagree there. We disagreed a lot this week. And just so you know, the Washington pick, if you lose, it does go against your record. And if Washington does win, I'm not giving you credit for that either. just throwing that out there.
No problem.
It's been the first week of the Hotline Blitz. It's a new era here on the TD Experience Podcast Network. Big things coming next week. We'll talk about this week's games. Look forward to the next week's game. As always, I'm Trey. Follow me on Twitter at TDEXPN. He's Cliff. Follow him at Teddy Bear Cliff. We'll talk to you next week.
We're out, guys.